Greetings Guardians, my name is Byfear. Quick little note before we start. Lots of the audio in the last few videos has been changing. I've been trying to get my settings completely correct on the compressor ever since I moved to a slightly new setup. So if things continue to sound a little bit strange until we get it dialed in, just let me know. This is just one of those things where the backlog of recordings and whatnot might change as time goes on, but let me know if things are effectively very different compared to the last few videos and if they're better for it. So, with the release of Heresy, we've got the new seasonal artifact. I've mentioned it before in a previous video I made, now we need to talk about it a little bit more. Today we're going to be discussing the new things we've learned about the Tablets of Ruin, now that it has properly fallen into our possession. To say that it holds the kind of revelations I was anticipating would be accurate, but I didn't think it would be this direct. Spoilers ahead, in case, well, you hadn't already gathered. And in case you wanted to hear my theories about the Tablet of Ruin, go ahead and watch my video from earlier before the release of the season, where I speculated a little bit about it. So starting off, we need to talk about how we get the Tablet of Ruin. It's initially discovered in the Dreadnought by Eris and the Drifter during their first excursion. The stranger thing about this moment is that their discovery of the Tablet of Ruin seems rather suspect. The reasons for this are revealed in the very first words of the lore tab of the Tablet of Ruin, that reads, "This tablet was recovered from Savathun's throne world when Alak-Hul, the Lightblade, was slain. It now sits idly in your possession." So this was the same tablet that we saw in Witch Queen, the same one that ended up being used by us to uncover more of Savathun's plan to abduct the Traveler into her throne world. But it's not clear how this fragment then got to the Dreadnought once more. If it ended up in our possession again afterwards, that means that someone stole it and placed it here. If it was left in Savathun's throne world, then it was quite possibly planted here by one of her agents. No matter what the case is, it's unclear, but this shouldn't have left our possession. Or at very least, it should have been something we'd kept track of. Finding it once more and it falling specifically into our possession is odd. Already, there's part of the chronology that just doesn't add up. That might have some relevance later in the story, but for now it remains a mystery. One that I think is worth remembering, because if a Tablet of Ruin was planted in our possession, that can't be a coincidence. I think this is a part of a puzzle piece in someone else's plan, and I think that we are also a puzzle piece. So as we take our steps down whatever path of resolve we move along in order to control the tablet and its power, we should be wary that we may well be doing the bidding of another. I have no evidence that I've seen just yet and haven't looked through all of the seasonal lore, but if I had to guess anything, I would guess that Savathun has a hand in this. Although why she would willingly hand us a Tablet of Ruin is beyond my knowledge. It is an artifact of incredible power, and those of you who've watched my previous content understand why. It is quite literally the basis of the power to take. But all of this is not the most important point about the Tablets of Ruin. That comes from the flavor text and the lore tab of the tablet, both of which are important, and they confirm lore that goes back over half a decade and impacts stories that have been around for a decade. And so without much further delay, here is the full flavor text and lore tab of the Tablet of Ruin. The world is not built on the laws they love, not with peace, but by victory at any means. The Winnower. This tablet was recovered from Savathun's throne world when Alak-Hul, the Lightblade, was slain. It now sits idly in your possession. No whispers coax you to listen, no edicts compel you to act. Nevertheless, you stare unwaveringly at the etched stone. Lightbearer, you are so serious about all of this. It's just a game. You want to shape the world, but you don't have the stomach for the wrong kind of violence. So you stare at stone or glass, trying to invoke the deep with control. We are already more acquainted than you remember. Can you hear me now? over the whiners and would-be gods? Do you know that I consider you a frustrating friend? And yet you point a gun, even when there is still so much between us. You know this only ends one way. Then kill it. I dare you. First things first. The flavor text at the very top is from somewhere else in the lore. The Books of Sorrow, verse 4:2. Majestic, majestic. An as of yet unattributed piece of text that is not from Oryx's perspective, but is instead the perspective of someone else who is speaking to him. This isn't unique to every passage in the Books of Sorrow. Xivu Arath, Savathûn, they all have their own passages and they all have various perspectives. However, this has been one of the most noteworthy. It has long been speculated that verse 4:2 is the words of a being beyond. For the longest time, we assumed that it was simply the darkness itself. Now we understand there may be a greater distinction. Now we understand that this voice is indeed the Winnower. The lore tab preceding this tells us more contextually, and is important because it pertains to the power of the tablet. Take a listen to this. Oryx went down into his throne world. He went out into the abyss, and with each step he read one of his tablets, so that they became like stones beneath his feet. He went out and he created an altar, and he prepared an unborn ogre. He called on the deep, saying, I can see you in the sky. You are the waves which are battles, and the battles are the waves. Come into this vessel I have prepared for you. And it arrived. The deep itself. Not only does this confirm what the witness told us in Salvation's Edge, that the Winnower does exist, but it also confirms that it is indeed the entity that communicated with Oryx in the Books of Sorrow. And he did so by walking out into the Ascendant Plane, by using the power of the Tablets of Ruin. And so there it is. We have confirmation from two definitive sources without any ambiguity. Not only does the Winnower exist, but the Winnower has been behind the creation of the Witness and the empowering of Oryx, the Taken King. There can be no more doubt now. The deep itself is real, and it is still out there. Whether it is an inevitable force of the universe, bound eternally to the very fabric of our existence, or is simply another foe that can be vanquished somehow, is as of yet unknown. But we know that it is still out there, watching, waiting, listening, an unfathomably ancient presence, that if it is to be believed, which may not necessarily be the truth, has been around since before time itself. This is a being potentially older than the universe, and its eye is upon us. 10 years worth of lore and speculation from the community has led up to this point. No single person owns this theory. All I can say is that I'm sure that some of the more vocal proponents of the Winnower and Witness being separate must be incredibly happy right now. And yes, if you're watching this one, Van Extran, that one's for you, buddy. As for the rest of the lore tab, it yet again appears to be another point at which the Winnower has communicated to us. The relationship between us and the Winnower is decidedly one-sided. We have never truly communicated to it, but it has communicated to us on multiple occasions. The Winnower is an intricate thing, and our relationship to it is intricate even from this point onwards, at least from the Winnower's own perspective it is. We have been one of its greatest champions in a certain unwitting way. It acknowledges this and acknowledges that if we are to truly oppose it, we are proving it right. I think that's because of the final words within the lore tab itself. You know this only ends one way. Then kill it. I dare you. No matter what the Winnower is saying here to us, it's clearly trying to coax us into accepting its own truth, to understanding that the world is as simple and brutal as it would be in battle, as simple and brutal as it has always told us that is. We are still selective in the ways in which our violence is deployed. It is not the only language we use to communicate across the fields of reality. This tendency to choose diplomacy with our friends is probably something the Winnower would like to see us break, so that once more it can be proven right. But there is no softer alternate path to end the final quarry of the universe, and that there is only a single final perfect reality, a most sharp thing, a final state, a final shape. Not the witness's final shape. The last, surest thing that exists because it must. As we go down the path of resolve and increase our taken power, I think there will be temptations that meet us along our journey. We will be tempted even as the tablets of ruin lie silent and do not compel us. As our control over this taken power grows, I fear that we may yet unknowingly see something else gain more control over us. It'd be easy to call a presence like that corruption, and I still think that is entirely possible, especially when taken energies are involved. But I think that we are changing in a different sense. I think that we're different because we're walking the path with a degree of control and insight unfamiliar to most others. I think we're being called because our actions are genuinely trending in that direction that the Winnower would see us follow. I think the Winnower is well aware of this. Maybe it isn't influencing anything at all. Maybe it is simply standing back and watching. Especially as we strive for greater control within the taken power that we now manifest, we may simply be following that path and doing its bidding all in one action. And of course, vengeance for a fallen friend will certainly make this even more tempting. We should be able to set things right. We should be able to acquire vengeance for Eris. We should be able to strike back. Domination over those who would proclaim themselves to be our enemies is the very logic of the Winnower. It is the way that one becomes sharp. And even though we walk the path of resolve and know that we may remain ourselves, I think we are still walking straight into the open arms of the Winnower. Before we wrap up though, I think there's one last thing to be said. If the Winnower is starting to make its presence known a whole lot more, things are about to change, and this helps to provide us with an explanation of what is happening in the story. Eris's killer doesn't have a name, but it does have a title, the Resonant Knife, first of the Reshaped. Its appearance aligns with the sudden resurgence of taken energies in the Dreadnought, of course, but it also aligns with the appearance of a new sub-faction of more dangerous enemies known as the Dire Taken. Encountering these Taken and Dread alongside the Hive on the Dreadnought might sound like further cause for alarm, as their forces normally might be combined, with all of them fighting for the same master. And yet, for the first time in the history of Destiny, you can see something utterly unprecedented. In the heart of this Hive fortress, where the Hive and Taken fought side by side for generations, where the Taken King proclaimed his power over both the Hive and the Taken, now something is different. Down in the Dreadnought, you can see that the Dire Taken are directly fighting with the Hive. These Hive are Xivu Arath's brood, not Savathun's Lucent brood either, so they have not strayed from the path of darkness. Instead, they are fighting yet more of its servants and proponents. What this then proves is that there is a faction separate from the Hive gods who are still darkly aligned, or at very least separate from Xivu Arath and her brood, and it is taking control of these new Taken, the Taken that appear to be aligned with the Dread. The question then becomes, who is fighting Xivu Arath? Who is opposing her influence? I think the answer lies in Salvation's Edge. When the Witness describes itself and the Winnower in Salvation's Edge, it called itself the First Knife. Eris's killer also uses something similar to this title, describing itself as the Resonant Knife. And so yet again the question has to be asked, who are the Dread and Taken really serving? In other words, who wields the knife? Is it Oryx? Or is it the Winnower? As we delve deeper into these secrets, I have no doubt that we will find more hints and clues at the influence of whoever is controlling these Taken and this new faction of Dread. No matter what the case is, this seems like it is either linked to the Winnower directly, or if it is perhaps Oryx's spirit that is controlling them, it is instead linked to one of the Winnower's greatest servants, the one who followed in its footsteps. The one who called himself Taken King. No matter what the case, we are reaching to the edge of the influence of something more ancient than we can fathom. It is nothing like what we faced before. And if heresy is supposed to be a prelude to everything that comes next, I think we're about to go to very dark places in the near future. Anyway, that's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, and leave your thoughts down below in the comments section, and remember to leave a like. And if you want more Destiny content, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership as always is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Per audacia ad astra. I'll see you, Starside.